Parents of Reddit, what's been the most WTF moment that you've witnessed with how someone interacts with your child? When my son was around 8 months and I was changing him in the bathroom, a woman came out of a stall, strangely surveyed my diaper change practices, then proceeded to tell me how my son has a big penis before leaving without washing her hands. My aunt took me and my cousin to an antique shop when I was 9 and my cousin was 7. The shop owner kept saying we were pretty as peaches and ran his thumb over my cousin's mouth. I was so anxious for her but was too scared to say anything. On the way home, my aunt called us W. I went from wanting to punch that man to wanting to kill your aunt. My mum called me a W once because I got changed with the curtains open. I don't understand why adults think it's okay to sexualize children like that. I had my 11-day-old out at a restaurant for my sister's birthday. I was wearing her in a wrap. A woman came up to me, commented about the baby, and tried to lift her out of the wrap saying it's okay. I work at a school. No B, it isn't okay. Breaking into someone's house, oh hey it's okay, I work as a housekeeper. Apparently when I was a baby, a woman came up to me on a train and said hi to me and played with me for a second, then took one of my feet and put it in her mouth. My parents switched carriages after that, thank God. What the actual frick is wrong with people? My siblings are twins. When they were very little, maybe 6 months, we went to Walmart. People are fascinated with twins, so we got random strangers asking us questions about them all the time. One time, Mom and I were fastening them into their car seats and this little old lady wanted to see how cute they were, so she climbed into our minivan to get a better look. She didn't mean any harm, but still 7-year-old me was creeped out. I took my 4-year and 1-year nephews out to the park a couple months ago. While they were running around chasing each other in the grass, this woman comes out of nowhere, grabs my older nephew and starts sort of petting his hair. I bolted towards him as soon as I saw her reaching for him and grabbed him within 5 seconds of her picking him up, and then grabbed younger nephew in case she tried to go for him next. I'd never seen this woman before in my life and have no idea why she thought it was okay to grab a stranger's child. An employee at Target once told my 6-year-old that based on how she was drinking from a water bottle she would probably be really popular with the boys in high school, maybe even middle school. Target took fricking forever to respond and it's possible that employee is still there. OMG, what the heck. One of my ex-husband's aunts was obsessed with my daughter. She was constantly trying to separate my daughter and I so she could be alone with her. Like she'd offer to change or feed her, then take her to separate room away from me. I can honestly make a list of some of the weird things she's done. Probably one of the most what the heck thing was when my daughter was 2. She was toddling around being her normal cute self. Aunt reaches out and grabs my daughter bottom and says such a tight cute little ass. I start yelling at her. Everyone thinks I'm blowing it out of proportion. That was probably one of the most what the heck things I've seen. I had just finished up dinner at a diner with my 3-year-old son and we were in line to pay. I said stay next to me, Finn, and some older dude walking out stops and says you shouldn't say his name outside. I could use that later to do stuff. I went from 1-10 in a millisecond and it got heated. He walked away, then some 70-plus-year-old tried to pick up my son to console him, while his wife yelled at him to stop. I was a little frazzled by the time we got home to the wife. My daughter is my biological daughter. We are American. She was born in Atlanta, GA. She's now an adult. However, she and I have both been asked her entire life if she is adopted. Complete strangers when they see her in person or in a photograph will always ask where she is from. They never believe us, but oh well lol. Once when she was around 13 we were in the mall and a female employee approached us in a store and started making small talk. She then starts asking about my daughter's ethnicity and commenting on how exotic she looks, how beautiful she was, etc. She starts asking if my daughter was a dancer. Not sure why. My daughter says yes. Then the woman starts asking where she danced, if she has recitals, can she come watch sometime. She says she wished she had pictures to send back home to show her relatives. BC, she's just so beautiful. I mean, she's just staring at my daughter like she's in a trance. Then she starts touching her face and rests her hand on her shoulder. I grabbed my daughter by the hand and left. Touching my kid crosses the line. What the heck? Your daughter is beautiful. She must be adopted. Seems like such a backhanded compliment. My niece's grandma is strange. She took my sister and 6-month-old niece through the drive-thru of Whataburger and actually bought the baby a chicken nugget kids meal with a Coke. Also, she recorded a very eerie video of herself singing my niece's name to her with the flash just inches from her face when she was a few days old. It's very uncomfortable to watch. My sister refuses to watch it. The more and more I read these, the more I think that some people treat babies like dogs, and it explains almost all of the things they are doing, saying lol. When I was a little over a year old, my parents took me to a Blockbuster so they could pick up a couple movies. An elderly man approached them and offered to buy me for $10,000. They thought he was joking at first, but no, he was dead serious trying to buy me. This happened to my mom as well when she was a little kid. This was in the 1960s. Some old woman approached my grandfather on their street and said she wanted to buy my mom because she had beautiful curly hair. My grandfather understandably said no. The lady got upset with and said he had too many kids, he had 7, and that it would be fine to sell one. My youth pastor would apparently say some borderline things to my mom about my sister and I. Unrelated, my mom was getting less into the church every single Sunday routine and sending us to youth group Saturday nights because we were busy with school and sports. Then one night the youth pastor drunk dialed my mom and left a message on the answering machine begging her to come back to church because he missed saying "you're beautiful, beautiful girls." Then I didn't have to go to church anymore. Yay. Told my mother-in-law to not give my toddler coffee. She proceeded to dip her finger in her coffee and put it in my toddler's mouth. It's a freaking toddler, do they need more energy? The fact that she did it right after you told her not to is what would make me mad. No matter what it was, you are the parent. We were at Walmart during a serious regional water outage, so it was absolutely swamped with people looking for bottled water. A friend of my mother-in-law was there, unknown to us, and without any warning, came up from behind and tried to lift our infant son from my wife's arms. This of course sent my wife into a panic, since she thought it was an attempted abduction using the crowd for cover. And she was still on edge even after recognizing the woman. Neither mother-in-law nor her friend understood why my wife was so upset with the woman. We don't really talk to the woman or her family anymore, and Mill still thinks we're too hard on her friend. When my son was about 2, my husband was at the store with him and a lady came up and said, "Your son's hair is gorgeous. Where do you get his highlights done?" Husband came home and asked me if people actually get their toddler son's hair colored. No, not sane people. Have him watch an episode of Toddlers and Tiaras to see what kind of people dye a toddler's hair. This happened to me when I was about 3 years old. My mom told me about this like a year ago. Some guy who was known as Dr. House in our village, because of his insane drug use and his appearance, walked up to me in a park and started talking to me in baby language. Goo goo gaga blah blah blah, etc. My mom thought he was just being funny, but he became really angry when he heard I could actually talk. He lifted me in the air and stumbled away with me in his hands, yelling, "Little liar." A guy who was also in the park then tackled our beloved doctor and brought me back to my mom. I'm surprised he didn't diagnose you with lupus. This happened to me when I was a kid. We were on our annual camping trip with my cousins at a lake we go to every year. We were age 11, 10, and 8. While swimming by the shore, an elderly man approached us and asked if he could take some underwater photos of us. He said he was a photographer and proceeded to show us an album of all these underwater photos he took, all being young girls in bikinis. Thankfully my dad and uncle saw the whole thing, stepped in, told him to scram and reported him to the park ranger. None of us realized at the time that we were in potential danger and felt bad for how our dads treated the man. Looking back on it as an adult, I realize how sinister things could have gone. When my oldest was a few months, my cousins came to visit. They asked whether I started giving my daughter ice baths yet. Now, a bit of background. We are all Russian-Ukrainian immigrants and popular in the Soviet times with the theory of zakalinia, adjusting the body to cold weather for supposed health reasons. I was subjected to it. I did not enjoy it, because I am a mammal who doesn't enjoy torture. Nor do I enjoy torturing any small children, much less my own. Anyway, no, I tell my cousin, as she launches into a long explanation of how they did ice baths for their son when he was an infant, and how he hated it. and how it was good for him even though he cried. I am sure the expression I wore on my face can best be described as what the heck. My cousin's explanation peters out as she points at her husband and yells, "He made me do it." First time my mother-in-law met my son. He was maybe 2 weeks old. She walked in the front door from the airport, sat down and I let her to hold him. She smiles and then stares straight into his eyes and turns to me and says, "He's so beautiful. I want to see him cry." Turns to baby, "Will you cry for grandma?" We all just stared at her, dumbfounded. Who does that? I can't even remember how I responded, honestly. Nothing as bad as the rest of these, but at age 4 or so, my kid asked a 5 or 6-year-old at the public pool if she wanted to play, and the kid gave her a look like the question was insane. But the what the heck was the mom's reaction? "Why was that girl talking to you? Do you know her?" And then the mom looks at my kid like she's got 3 heads for daring to ask another child in a public pool to play. By their appearance and lack of accent they were Midwestern Americans, so there wasn't a cultural reason for the what the heck. Old man in a mobility scooter told my 4-year-old daughter how pretty she is and offered her to climb up onto his lap and go for a ride. This more in a flirtatious voice than that you would use with a young child. She's 7 now and has always been fairly outgoing, but I have never seen her instantly afraid of someone like she was with that man. I was pretty shook up once my brain was able to process the whole exchange. Good on her for following her instincts at such a young age. We were invited to a neighbor's party. At this party is another woman I'd never met before, who asked if she could hold my 6-month-old boy. No problem. He is adorable. She then proceeds to kiss him on the mouth and said, "There, remember that I was your first kiss." I immediately took him back and had to avoid her the rest of the evening without being seen as the rude one in the party. She didn't take hints well either. I've been the what the heck person. I grabbed a child and sped off with him. I was ice skating and zoomed unintentionally towards this kid. He wasn't small enough to go under my legs, so I grabbed him and we both slowed to an awkward halt. I apologized profusely to the parents. "Hey, you apologized. And it was a total accident. At least you didn't plow him over. You saved him from getting a faceful of ice after your directional screw up." When my oldest was about 2 months old and I was still on maternity leave, I had a homeless, I suspect, woman approach me and ask if she could have my baby. We were living in a not so great area of a suburb of Dallas, a place where we'd sometimes get homeless 40-plus-year-olds trick-or-treating by themselves on Halloween. I had just taken my baby to the doctor for a checkup. It was probably a week after I'd been cleared to drive after an emergency C-section. This crazy woman, who I'd never seen on my street before, and who looked and smelled like she hadn't bathed in at least a week, approached me as I struggled to get the baby carrier out of the car. She said my baby was beautiful, and asked if she could keep it for a while. I said no, so she asked if she could babysit. I said no thanks, and made a limping break for the front door. I locked the door and called my husband for help. She hung out around the front porch for the half hour before he made it home. We moved away from that area a month later. My 3-year-old daughter is allergic to strawberries. My mother-in-law and aunt-in-law both know this and have been asked multiple times to not keep them where she can find them. A few weeks ago I went to pick her up from their house, and I find her sitting at the bar eating strawberries with them. I went freaking ballistic. They said they didn't see the harm, and of course not. They weren't the ones who had to comfort her for the following 24 hours while she was covered from head to toe with hives and having explosive diarrhea. I no longer allow her to be over there unless my husband or I are there too. I can't trust them not to do it again. My mother-in-law thought it was a good idea to lick my daughter's hands clean after lunch. She put her whole tiny hands in her mouth. Like this video and this good boy will play you a nice song. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.